So, ladies and gentlemen, before we start this podcast, I have to profess a conflict of interest. I spend most of the day today, September 21st, in the capital city of New Brunswick, Fredericton, attending a special event that maybe has no parallel in Canadian comic book history. The great Richard Comley, the creator and overall originator of Captain Canuck, one of the most important comic book series in Canadian history, was there, meeting fans, signing autographs, just talking about his creation, meeting the great supporters of the Strange Adventures comic book shop in the Fredericton location. Now, there's also Strange Adventures in Halifax. Richard was asked to come in, or provided a way to come in to celebrate both locations. Now, Richard Comley is sort of like Canada's Stan Lee if Stan Lee was Canadian. Stan Lee is well known for putting together scripts for various projects. But the background to Captain Canuck is so Canadian that only a Canadian could tell it. Now, for our American friends, I want you to listen to this carefully, and yes, this really occurred. Now, Richard Comley, born Oxford, England, October 9, 1950. Again, he's a cartoonist, writer, penciler, inker, editor, letterer, and colorist. Now, his most notable work, of course, is Captain Canuck. He created and wrote the Captain Canuck comic book series, which has been in and out in publication since its original release in 1975. Now, I missed the first issue. It sold out very quickly in my home region, but I picked up number 2. I was traded in my hometown for years. Now, in 2011, the rights to Captain Canuck to produce a live-action film adaptation. In 2012, Comley entered an exclusive licensing agreement with the CEO of Chapter House Comics, Fahmi Hakim, to produce animation, merchandise, and a new comic book series under Captain Canuck Incorporated. Now again, born in Oxford, 1950, relocated to England as a child in 1953. He was eventually baptized in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or called the LDS, in 1971. Now married since 1975 to his beautiful wife Evelyn, Comley is the father of 8 children. Now, he has had a very, very diverse career: a sign painter, crest designer, fashion and embroidery designer, an illustrator and paste-up artist for a printer, and a graphic designer for newspapers, magazines, and advertising. Comley has also written and illustrated children's books, syndicated newspaper features, and greeting cards. He has also published a newspaper. He designed and manufactures the Comley crane, a portable, extendable jib arm. He also produced a best-selling art education video called Drawing from the Pros. He again began publishing the Captain Canuck comic book series in early 1975 with co-creator Ron Leishman, whom he met at an LDS church meeting. Now, Captain Canuck was well before the Vindicator Guardian character from the X-Men Alpha Flight universe. Captain Canuck, the big Canadian flag on his face, out to fight for freedom, to fight for what's right. And in the book, Canada is the most dominant country of the world. I think it was set in 1993 into 94. Now, it was the first independently published comic book to be printed in full color. Comley had no experience with comic books, having never read or collected them as a child. Now, Comley and Leishman had planned to create a Canadian-themed comic book based on Captain Canada as early as 1971, but were unable to obtain funding, which has been a problem with the comic over the years. That character was named Captain Canuck as a variation of Captain Canada. Despite being criticized for appearing to be a prank, the name was intended as a positive slang term for a Canadian. Now, in 1975, Captain Canuck outsold all other comic books in Canada, with 170,000 copies initially sent to stores and newsstands in the United States and Canada. Now, on the Maritimes, it would be sent to the Loblaw group of companies, including Savesy. That's where it showed up, but it wasn't like a regular monthly. It was several months between publications. Now, letters from the Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau and the Canadian Governor General were published in issues of the series. As a member of the LDS Church, he also used the comic book series as a proselytizing tool. He informed readers of his church membership in the first issue, reprinted an article from an LDS church affiliate magazine called The Ensign in the second issue, and published missionary pamphlets and letters from Ron Leishman, who was serving a mission for the LDS Church at the time, in subsequent issues. The first issue, however, was criticized by Time magazine as amateurish, with often clumsily artwork and storyline. You're not getting Marvel or DC for just a hometown publisher, and that's what he was. But for what it was pretty good, because this was the first successful Canadian comic book magazine or comic book publication since the Second World War. Now, 200 issues were released in 1975 until Comley Comics went out of business the same year and left the comic at a cliffhanger because they were unable to keep up with publishing costs. Now, in 1979, he created CKR Productions in Calgary and resumed publishing the series at issue 4, with Comley resuming his position as the writer. He delegated business management, artwork, and coloring to other employees, positions he originally held himself, in order to focus on improving the storyline. By issue 5, he was editor-in-chief. After 13 issues in 1981, Comley left the production in order to return to freelance design. In 1982, he published a new comic book series called Star Rider and The Peace Machine, but only 2 issues were released before the project folded. CRK Productions only released 1 additional issue of Captain Canuck before closing down for financial issues and abandoning the series. Now, Comley's production staff released Captain Canuck Reborn in 1993, which was intended to be a new series with different characters and a different origin story. However, Comley only released 4 issues before it, and a Captain Canuck newspaper strip went out of publication in 1996 due to difficulties navigating the Canadian publishing industry. He served as editor of a limited Captain Canuck series called Captain Canuck on Holy War in 2004, created by Riel and Drew Langlois. Comley released a new Captain Canuck series in summer 2006, but in September 2006, Comley began instructing in comic book storytelling and comic strips at Mohawk College, a great facility in Brantford, where he created a 1-year course for comic book illustration and scripting. Now, according to the Panama City News Herald, Comley said that he was more interested in promoting his character Captain Canuck than creating any new comics. In 2012, again, he entered an exclusive license agreement with Fahd Hakim of Chapter House Comics. Now, in 2011, Mind's Eye Entertainment acquired the right to Captain Canuck with intentions to adapt the series in a live-action film. And in 2012, they hired Ann Olson to write the screenplay. But unfortunately, since then, no Captain Canuck movie, we can almost already hope. Now, when we say that it was the first successful series of its Canadian history, that's a gross understatement. Captain Canuck was unknown before 1975. As soon as it hit the stands, everybody was talking about it. Everybody loved Captain Canuck. Everybody wanted to be Captain Canuck. Everybody thought, hey, with an American play him or a Canadian, we could see big things. This was heady times for Canada because we're in the midst of the separatism movement in Quebec. We're in the midst of a heavy inflation. Pierre Trudeau almost lost the 1972 election, minority government. 1974, Stanfield was on his back, and you were seeing international terrorism at a certain level. Canada was a much different place in 1974-75 than it is right now in 2022. We can look back and say we survived, but it was tough times. Now, 3 characters have worn the maple leaf costume of Captain Canuck. The first, Captain Canuck, patrolled Canada the then future year of 1993, where Canada had become the most powerful country in the world. The U.S. media didn't like that too much. He was the costume agent of the Canadian International Security Organization, or CISO. In 1995, Captain Canuck was honored with a Canadian postage stamp, along with Superman, Johnny Canuck, Fleur de Lis, and Nelvana of the Northern Lights, representing Canadian comic book publishing. Now, again, the idea, if you've seen the animated series, was proposed, was crowdfunded, and it aired between 2013 and 2014. A second series, again, under proposal. Now, I saw the series, and I was very impressed. There's a lot going on there. It was sort of a throwback to kind of the second Spider-Man series. I don't know, late 70s, early 80s. But Richard Comley, I saw him in Fredericton today. I didn't want to go deep in his background and what's going on. But to know that it's hard to explain. To meet somebody that was part of Canadian history that's still giving back to the industry he was part of. This is like meeting a hockey player like a Wayne Gretzky or a Dougie Gilmour or Wendell Clark. He had hockey player recognition. Everybody knew him. Very handsome guy, very well read, well thought out. And the story how he got from the comic book, got it published, and the went tits up financially. It doesn't take away, the effort is the thing here with Captain Canuck. It's not the results. Because it was hard times back in the 70s because Marvel was selling millions and millions of copies of their comic books for less than 50 cents. There wasn't much market share. It was very, very thin. I don't think we were making any more than a few cents per copy. They did it, and it'll always be part of us as Canadians. But the 1970s, they're showing CBC the Summit Series in 72. I know, ladies and gentlemen, that Captain Canuck, every time you look at the 72 jerseys, you look at Captain Canuck in the mid-1970s, I don't know where the inspiration came from the uniform, but he looked Canadian, he acted Canadian, he was Canadian. He's one of the few characters, not a bit of American in him. When you get Captain Canuck, he's the real deal, Holyfield. He's a great role model. Now, Neil Adams, unfortunately, I met him several times at celebrity events in the States before he passed away. And I asked Neil Adams once, what do you think of, Captain Canuck? He said, listen, that's one of the best, projects. He said, even though the company went under, he said, one of the best projects because he said, Richard, great talent, he said, you should be proud of him. And the fact was, the Johnny Byrne, X-Men, Vindicator, Guardian, Alpha Flight, there might have been a little bit of taken over, but it's a Canadian flag in interpretations of the artist. John Byrne being Canadian, Pierre Trudeau didn't sue him because he was using Trudeau's visage to do some of the Alpha Flight characters. Some of the female characters look like female versions of Pierre Trudeau. So anyway, but ladies and gentlemen, what I want you to do, if you have a chance tonight, read up about Captain Canuck, see some of the animated stuff, the YouTube. It's quite interesting. Again, if you think Canadians can't be superheroes, you're wrong. Captain Canuck proved it. This was before Terry Fox. This was before Rick Hansen. This was before Celine Dion, all the pop stars, Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling, Alanis Morissette. Like I said, that era, Anne Murray, the Beachcombers, the Guess Who, Captain Canuck, Team Canada 72, Team Canada 74, Guy Lafleur, Daryl Sittler. You couldn't go any place in Canada at a Loblaws in Ontario or Provigo in Quebec, and Captain Canuck was on those nice rotating comic book, the wheel wells there to go and turn around. Captain Canuck is my hero. He should be your hero. And this is the first time you're hearing about Captain Canuck. You're saying to yourself, why haven't I heard of it before? Well, if you're not Canadian, why would you know about Captain Canuck? It was a very exclusive club at the time. I think it was 20 million members. And I really miss those days because to see something so Canadian in front of us, it's like maple syrup and a hockey stick together on a bun or something. It's, you know what I mean. Very, very Canadian. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here with our entertainment podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe. And don't forget, people like Richard Comley have given back to his industry. Every artist that goes to these celebrity events, or what they call fan events, please talk to them because they will motivate the new generation. Please talk to people. God bless his soul, he's no longer around to talk to, but Stan Lee, Neil Adams, Jack Kirby's family, people like that, Bill Seikenwich, the Buscema, all the different people. Comic books, as they were, everybody, like these Marvel movies make millions and millions of dollars. Not the same. It's not the same. Comic books at 25 to 50 cents in your hand, and you were taken away. Well written, well presented, well drawn. Me, the three favorite comics I had growing up, and this may sound completely bizarre: The Avengers, Dark Shadows, Gold Key in print, and Captain Canuck. I've been 40 years in the media business. We're getting paid for it. Captain Canuck, again. Such an honor to meet Richard. Thanks so much. Thanks to our good friends at Strange Adventures, your heroic stop in Fredericton for all things comics. Have a good one. Bye.